time I create a positive thought in my mind, also I create a negative thought. It's just like, I'm going to be very successful. My mind says, oh, no, you're not. So since I create positive and negative, it's which one I give the most attention that is powerful. When I think positive constantly, it's very powerful and it controls me. If I think negative all the time, it's going to control me too.
Hey friend, welcome to my channel Karine Alourde, where we deep dive and break down the most iconic stars in history. If you're not yet subscribed, please be sure to do so and turn on your notifications so you never miss an upload. Today we are talking about the icon, the legend, Diana Ross, okay? She has won several major awards, including a Golden Globe, a Tony, and several American Music Awards. Ross was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1988 as part of the Supremes, and Ross was crowned Female Entertainer of the Century by Billboard in 1976, in addition to being a member of the Supremes and solo artist. Ross is one of the few people to have 2 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, but she is surrounded by a lot of scandals. So we're going to get into some things from her love triangle with Cher. All that went back and forth with her and Michael Jackson, and how Michael Jackson wrote Dirty Diana for her, but had to revise it and make it less sinister, because Michael Jackson really wrote it as a revenge song, and it was originally very, very intense, and Quincy Jones had him like rewrite it a little bit because it was just too much and they didn't want Michael Jackson to get canceled, but it was his revenge song. Tune in because we're going to get into all of that, but let's first start with her childhood, and then we're going to get into her career, then the Supremes, and so on and so forth. So Diana Ross was born in Detroit, Michigan on March 26, 1944. Her mother intended to name her Diane, but wrote Diana on a birth certificate instead. Ross' mother became gravely ill with tuberculosis when Ross was 7 years old. Ross' parents sent her and her siblings to Bessemer, Alabama to live with their grandparents, and her family moved back to Detroit after their mother's health improved. A year after her 14th birthday, in 1958, she and her family moved to St. Antoine Street in the Brewster Douglas housing projects, a neighborhood primarily inhabited by the city's low-income population. With the goal of becoming a fashion designer, Ross enrolled in classes like clothing design, dressmaking, pattern making, and tailoring at Cass Technical High School, a 4-year college and preparatory magnet school in downtown Detroit. And we see how fashionable she is. She is a fashion icon, a legend in that, right? And so I can really tell that she was into fashion. Not only did she join the school swim team, but she also took evening and weekend classes in modeling and cosmetology. Ross was the first African-American bus girl for Hudson Stores in 1960s downtown Detroit. She did her neighbor's hair as a side gig to supplement her income, and it was in January of 1962 that Ross received her Class Tech diploma. Diana Ross started singing with friends when she was a teenager, and the group they formed, the Supremes, had hits like Come See About Me and You Can't Hurry Love. Let's talk about the Supremes though. The Supremes made 12 of their singles #1 hits, okay? Making them the American music group with the most Billboard chart toppers in history. In his book, J. Randy Taraborelli, author of the unauthorized bio, I must say that it was unauthorized, so take everything with a grain of salt, but he titled his book Call Her Miss Ross. He tells how the often ill-tempered Ross hated fellow Supremes Mary Wilson and Florence Ballard. Ross, as the most influential member of the Supremes and later as a solo artist, once demanded unbelievable things from her team, promoters, and fans.
You know, rumors about Diana Ross's relationship with the Supremes are, I mean, they're legendary. We've heard stories that Diana would make the other Supremes change gowns at the last minute.
I never heard that before, no.
Forcing them to perform in mismatched nail polish.
He said, and I quote, "She would demand that people call her Miss Ross and that everybody diverted their eyes from her when she entered a room. She would insist her dressing rooms have the same color scheme as the color of her eyes. One year she had 40 secretaries attending to her. The fact that Gordy had romantic feelings for Ross also accounted for his prioritization of Ross over the other band members. As Gordy himself admitted, saying, I was madly in love with Diana Ross. She was the big star of my life." End quote. Naturally, Gordy did everything in his power to make sure Ross could be the big star of the music industry too. They eventually started dating, and Ross' position as the band's frontman was strengthened as a result, so she had leverage over the other girls, you know? However, it's unclear whether her motivation was purely egotistical or whether she genuinely hopes to improve her standing in the entertainment industry. So bandmate Mary Wilson saw it clearly, calling Ross a spoiled brat. So the clue is out there for everyone that basically She was with Gordy, according to these articles and members, to further her career. As Wilson later said in an interview, and I quote, "The higher we ascended, the more Diane wanted for herself. She began dating Barry, and whenever she was unhappy about something, she would let him know, kind of like sicking him on the other girls." Oof, end quote. Wilson went on to describe Ross little tricks of doing something different from the rest of the band to make herself stand out, such as wearing a different costume for a show, stretching her arms out during performance to obscure the view of the other members. Despite their apparent insignificance, these actions were the first to drive a wedge between Ross and the rest of the band. Gordy's obvious favoritism towards Ross was a major factor in the execution of the entire operation. He had this to say. He said, "It was perhaps favoritism because Diana was a favorite of mine, but she had the talent to justify that favoritism," end quote. So there was no denying it. He was front street about it, guys. Comment below, how do you guys feel about that? I don't like to hear that, but you know. Ross went solo in 1969, and her solo singles Ain't No Mountain High Enough, Hangover went to #1. She also starred in the films Mahogany and Lady Sings the Blues, for which she was nominated for an Academy Award. And according to her autobiography, Secrets of a Sparrow, Ross suffered from anorexia, you know, eating problems, after being driven so hard by Gordy that she developed anxiety. Like, he really wanted her to be a huge star.
But that was a very stressful time. I mean, there were periods where you weren't eating and you were getting too thin.
And I can think about it when I see the photographs of me in the early, I was real tense. My shoulders were really high. I was really thin. And I think the pressure, it all happened for us so very fast. It's like all of a sudden we were just traveling and working. There was no lessons as to how to cope with the fast pace of having a successful career.
As a result of exhaustion, Ross passed out during a performance in Boston, Massachusetts in 1967. According to J. Randy Taraborelli, Diana Ross, a biography, Ross was down to just 93 pounds at the time. Ross wrote about her weight issues in her 1993 memoir, Secrets of a Sparrow, saying, "Sometimes the stress got so bad I couldn't eat," she recalled. "I just couldn't swallow anything. I'd put food in my mouth, but my jaws would clamp together and I couldn't chew. It got so bad that I couldn't even tolerate the smell of food. It was too pungent for me. Perhaps it was a form of anorexia. I was becoming skin and bones. Although the Supremes were at the top, I felt as if I were sitting at the bottom of a deep, dark pit," end quote. Gordy said the pair split because he was more in love with her becoming the biggest star in the world, adding, "I said, if this is going to get in the way, we can't do it. Can you imagine your man breaking up with you because he wants to put your career first over your love?" I don't know. InStyle says that Diana Ross and Berry Gordy slept together in late 1970 after their first breakup. Ross got married to music executive Robert Ellis Silberstein about a month or two after they met. 7 months later, Ross had a daughter named Rhonda, who is thought to be Silberstein's daughter. Ross and Gordy knew the truth because Silberstein was white and Rhonda looked a lot like Gordy. And Gordy said, "We didn't know it was mine when she had the baby." And this was in an interview he had with Barbara Walters. He continued saying, "But Diana and I talked about it and we came to the conclusion that it was in fact my child," end quote. Let's talk about her and Michael Jackson, which is actually, this one really broke my heart for Michael. Michael. Yeah, a video is coming for him too, guys. Just wait on it. So Ross was credited with discovering the Jackson 5s, but in reality, she was just an accomplice in Motown's grand scheme to promote the Jackson 5. So their first album was introduced to the world as Diana Ross Presents the Jackson 5. In reality, the Jacksons were found by Bobby Taylor, a producer at Motown, and despite this, Ross took on the role with gusto, eventually becoming close friends and even a mother figure to Michael Jackson. And let me tell you, she watched him grow up. Like, this is in my opinion. I'm not, before we get too deep, I'm saying this so as I continue with the video, you guys can keep that in mind and comment your thoughts below. I don't know why no one ever spoke about the increased age difference, and why I saw many articles made Michael Jackson's mom appear bitter and mean, but there was a lot of older women in the industry that I feel really did take advantage of Michael when he was not of age, okay? It wasn't, this is not just for Diana. I'm talking about there was a lot of older women, and as we do their videos, we're gonna get into that, because he wasn't even of age. Imagine when the Jackson 5, when Diana presented the Jackson 5, Michael was not, he was 9 years old, okay? To the point where he called her mother. Just keep that in mind as we go. When they first met, Michael wrote in his autobiography, they met at the age of 9.
wasn't introducing you, Michael.
You weren't? Well, who else do you think makes the stage come to real life besides me and Ed Sullivan?
I just want to, because that was what got me as everybody was writing their think pieces. I was like, but you guys are glossing over the most, you know, shocking part to me. So keep that in mind as we talk. I wonder why they focused on Michael's life the way they did with, you know, the later part of his life, but not the earlier with how, you know, the media almost glamorized a lot of these older women starting relationships with him. But let's talk about it. So Michael Jackson's one true love was Diana Ross, who was 14 years his senior. She was more than just a mother to him. She was also his lover and best friend. He could never catch her, the one he had always longed for. Michael Jackson adored Diana to the point of obsession. He was crazy. That's all I'm gonna say. He had a large room filled with photos, pictures, and paintings of Diana Ross and thousands of candles burning for her 24/7. But Diana is the only woman he's done this for. There's no, you know, nothing else that states he's done this for anyone else. And in 1969, Michael began his relationship with Diana, and they lived together for a full year before Michael's family made the permanent move from Gary, Indiana to Encino, California in 1971. He referred to Diana as both his mama and girlfriend. This is from his own mouth, guys. From his own mouth. This is also what Michael's mom said, and I quote, "When Diana Ross was named to play Dorothy, Michael had further incentive to land a role in the movie. He's been in love with her ever since he and his brothers had been her house guest. You're not pretty until you start looking like Diana," he would tease LaToya and Janet. Diana Ross was Michael Jackson's inspiration. He even started to look like her in his later life. It's like he was modeling his face after her, in my opinion, okay? She was the ideal woman in his eyes, and to him, a beautiful woman had to be just like Diana. They were like mother and son at work, and he looked up to her. It was his intention to propose to her, and they were allegedly twice engaged. She called off the arrangements twice. A career-ending move would have been to marry Michael Jackson, who was 14.5 years her junior. So J. Randy Taraborelli had this to say, saying, "Diana Ross, while filming The Wiz, was asked to Michael Jackson's apartment in New York and stayed the night. One of Diana's assistants said he had been trying to get hold of both of them all morning as they were late for filming. He said that he eventually got hold of them on the phone and was surprised to find they were in his apartment and that she had apparently spent the night there. Later on during the shoot, Diana was apparently overheard talking to some girlfriends of hers and said to one of them, 'Well, I'll tell you one thing, Michael definitely isn't gay.' When this assistant asked Michael if anything had happened between them, Michael said, 'You have to ask her that.' It's no secret that Dirty Diana is all about Diana Ross. It seemed like his dreams were coming true when she said she wanted to marry him. So in the mid-1980s, she said yes to his proposal of marriage and accepted, you know, a ring. She wears it to the Motown 25th anniversary show and the American Music Awards in 1984, where it can be seen prominently. To prove it, she gave him her first kiss on the mouth at the AMAs while holding his face in her hands to display the engagement ring to the world. They allegedly told his mother together after Diana tested the waters to see how the public would react. So a tantrum was thrown by the mother, Katherine Jackson, which I don't blame her, in my opinion. In her opinion, Diana was too old for her son, and she even accused her of staining him. She contacted the media and informed the press. The press began hounding and following Diana. They joked about her age and referred to her as a cradle robber and other derogatory terms. Due to the overwhelming amount of pressure Diana was under, she abandoned Michael Jackson to be with Ernie Naez. Because of his intense rage and sadness, he dedicated a large number of songs to her. So a lot of Michael's songs were about her. He eventually stopped crying though and became enraged. He had spent millions to give her everything she could have ever wanted. For years he tried to propose to her, but to no avail. The title he penned about Diana, titled Dirty Diana, was derogatory and written with malice, and a lot more bad stuff happened at first. Michael Jackson, however, wrote the song as an act of vengeance against her for breaking his heart. He meant it when he said she likes the boys in the bands. Diana had flings with musicians like Lionel Richie Carey, Barry Gibbs of the Bee Gees, and Gene Simmons of Kiss, which she later had an affair with Gene Simmons. We're going to talk about it. While she was supposed to be dating Michael, and when she slept with Gene and mentioned Michael Jackson's by name, she started a lifelong feud between him and Gene. Gene dated her for 2 years, and that was Cher's man. We're going to get into it, but that's part, according to Michael, one of the reasons they broke up. Since Gene held Michael Jackson responsible, their relationship deteriorated into permanent hostility. Michael Jackson said that Diana Ross would come to him and say, "Just make me a star." Michael Jackson believed that she only cared about her career and wealth to the detriment of her relationship with the man who adored her. He described how she acted whenever he made a concerted effort to move on from her and date someone else. She'd appear out of nowhere, become jealous, and try to cling to him, and he would always go back. You know, Diana went and sat in his lap and took up all of his time and attention when he had the publicity date with Madonna. And after Diana's marriage, when he was obviously very upset by it, Elizabeth Taylor came on stage to give him moral support. So Diana saw that and, you know, got instantly jealous. Diana was on stage flirting with Lionel Richie when Liz came up to hold, you know, Michael Jackson's hands. So Diana rushed over and grabbed him. I was watching a documentary, and during this part, I went to go look through the comments on YouTube, and someone commented that Diana rushed on stage to get the attention from Liz Taylor, because she was like, "No, this is my young man. Get your own young man." You guys comment your thoughts. I'm not going to give an opinion on that. That's exactly what he was alluding to when he said that she wouldn't commit to anything with him, but she'd come along and ruin all of his relationships with women, whether romantic or platonic. It's like, yeah, I don't want you, but I also don't want other people to want you, and I don't want you to want other people. I don't know. So that's why a lot of MJ fans really don't like her, you know. Ugh. So as far as her relationships, because that ended. So Robert Ellis Silberstein and Diana, once they started dating in November 1970, they married on January 1971. So they did end up getting divorced in March 1977, and the couple had 2 daughters, Tracy Ellis Ross. So in 1985, Arne Nayes Jr. and Diana Ross began dating. They married on February 1986, but divorced in 2000 after it was discovered that Nayes had another child with a Norwegian woman. But she had 2 children with him, Ross Arne and Evan Olav. So now let's talk about her and Gene Simmons and Cher, okay? It seems that when Ross and Simmons started dating, let's say that Gene Simmons was already dating Cher, right? Simmons' relationships with another famous musician, Cher, ended, and I did a breakdown for Cher. She has one of the most interesting lives. Please check out that video. You will not be disappointed. Fashion. That his relationship with Cher kind of ended in 1979 when the singer told him to ask her friend Diana Ross what to get her for Christmas. So to catch you up to speed, Diana Ross and Cher were very good friends. So good of friends that Cher trusted Gene to go and ask Diana for what to get her for Christmas, because he was like, "I don't know what to get Cher." So, well, just go ask my good girlfriend Diana. Okay, just keep that in mind. So Diana Ross and Gene Simmons dated from 1980 to 1983, and they broke up after being caught in a love triangle. So this is what Gene says. This is how it happened in his mind. He said, "I remember coming in and immediately thinking 2 things about her. First, that she was very sensual, and second, that she was in a firm control of her career." And Simmons went on to write, "While we were talking, she made me coffee, and then she offered me a piece of chocolate cake. I inhaled it so quickly that she offered me a second piece, and that went away too. The 2 hit it off immediately, bonding over their shared love of racquetball. We didn't give it much thought, and I'm not sure either of us had any hidden agenda. But it became clear pretty quickly that something was happening," Simmons said. According to People, Cher remained friendly with both Simmons and Ross following the split, and even attended a Kiss rehearsal with Ross in 1980. "She's turned into our biggest fan," Simmons told the outlets. But, you know, this is why I like Cher, because she handled it very gracefully and wasn't problematic about it. She was just like, whatever, and then moved on herself. I want you guys to comment your thoughts about that. I was kind of, you know, like, oh wow, this is crazy. But this is a Diana Ross playlist, okay? The big curly hair, such an inspiration. Her makeup, she is a stunning woman, and she's, to me, aged gracefully, looking even more stunning, okay? Diana Ross, though, towards now, as we get closer to more modern times, She did end up entering a Malibu's Promise Treatment Center in May 2002 for treatments for, you know, substance use, alcoholism, and other chemical dependencies. And what they did was like educational lectures, relapse prevention skills, group therapy sessions, and therapy, you know, and this was according to CNN. And her publicist, Paul Bloch, said Ross was at Promises to clear up some personal issues because she wants to be in great shape for her family and fans. And in August, she canceled her summer concert tour per ABC News. So Ross was also arrested for DUI in Tucson, Arizona in December, and a breathalyzer test showed she had a blood alcohol level of 0.2, more than twice the state's legal limit of 0.08, and higher than the 0.15 mark for extreme DUI, according to Today. She was convicted of DUI and sentenced to 2 days in jail, which she served at the Greenwich Police Department in Connecticut. And since then, we haven't really, she's been out of the spotlight. We haven't really heard much about her, but you know, she is still a legend. I know all of these things are shocking with her Michael thing. That did really shock me, and then I kind of understood later. But I was like, wow, the articles that were written, you know, Michael Jackson fans are something serious. They do not play about Michael. But comment below your thoughts. What did you find most interesting? I'm very curious to know. And it's the industry. It's like that. I'm not surprised by stuff like that anymore with the industry. It just is. Everybody I'm gonna do a breakdown on is probably gonna have something shocking that you didn't know, that probably, you know, is not the best thing that they could have done. That's just how it's gonna be with most of these videos. I've learned is rarely a perfect person. There's only a handful of breakdowns that I've done where I was like, oh, thank goodness, you know, it started great, ended great, nothing too shocking or scandalous. And other than that, it's very rare to find someone who just walks the straight and narrow. So don't be too shocked or disappointed, but I love you guys so much. Thank you for tuning in. If you like the music that you're listening to, the link is in the description. Support my brother's music, and also share this video with a friend. Comment below who else would you guys like me to do a breakdown on. I love you guys so much. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time.